Thank you very much. Can we give them a round of applause once again? Your Excellency, the former President of our dear Republic of Ghana, members of your entourage, executives and representatives of professional bodies herein gathered, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. Thank you very much for making time to be with us this evening for this program that we have dubbed as the Professional Dialogue Series. Tonight, as you are aware, we have here with us the former President of Ghana and the National Democratic Congress presidential candidate for the 2020 elections. So tonight we're going to have a conversation with him. We're going to have, he's going to tell us his platform, and then we would also ask a number of questions, and hoping that as part of the democratic process that we have embarked on, we as citizens of this country would be able to hear from him personally and also delve much into it. And by that, we would have more knowledge about his platform and also be educated on the choice that we make come December 7, 2020. So I'd like to thank you all very much for making the time to be with us here. And we would right away get into the program. So I will invite Stephen Kemeche to give us the opening prayer.
Hello. Can we please be upstanding for the opening prayer? Kindly. Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, we thank you for making this possible for us to be here today. We praise you. We pray for your presence. Reset our agenda, refocus our intentions and our heart. Direct us to your purpose and to your will. Father, you are the Lord over this nation. Nothing happens in this nation or in any nation on earth without your knowledge. This is why we come to you today to ask you for peace over our dear country, Ghana. Lord, by the authority you have given us, we declare and we decree that there will be complete peace in the upcoming elections. Take charge, O God, and let your glory fill this hall and all homes in Ghana. In the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, amen.
Thank you very much, Stephen Kemeche, for the opening prayer. So let me formally introduce myself. My name is Amanda Kofi. I am a research fellow at the Legon Center for International Affairs and Diplomacy, University of Ghana. This program is organized by the Center for Social Justice. Kemeche, who gave us the opening prayer, is one of the founding members of this organization. So we want to thank them for giving us this opportunity to have today's interaction with the NDC presidential candidate, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. So this evening, the program is quite straightforward. It's a day that we've dedicated to the candidates, and so we would have ample time to listen to him and also have our turn to ask a number of questions. But we will soon be hearing from the Center for Social Justice, their vision and the reason for having this platform, and also for inviting presidential candidates to have a meeting with us. Before then, we would have one musical interlude, and then I would call on Soji Tete, Dr. Soji Tete, to get ready to talk to us about the Center for Social Justice. Thank you. Thank you very much. Odo Mahama and no one in here. That is why we are here. We are here in the interest of Mother Ghana. So as I said, the lead founder of the Center for Social Justice, Dr. Soji Tete, would be addressing us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Joseph Champon and Talent Space, for setting the mood for a very engaging discussion. Your Excellency John Dramani Mahama, former President of the Republic of Ghana, the leadership of the Center for Social Justice, Frederick Herbert Stiftung, partners of the Center for Social Justice, Imam Mohammed Awal Shuaib, member of the advisory board to the National Chief Imam, executives of various professional bodies, Madam Mercy Nijan, President of Greater Accra Market Association, representatives of civil society organizations, Mr. Chachu Chikata, who kicked off the first leadership dialogue and is joining us virtually today, Professor Fred Newton Benka, Foundational Vice Chancellor of the University of Health and Allied Sciences, and if I may add, a staunch incrementalist, distinguished ladies and gentlemen of the press, welcome to the third Leadership Dialogue series of the Center for Social Justice. This will be our first in-person dialogue, with the others having been conducted online. It is important for me to start with a disclaimer that the views that I express here are entirely my own personal views and not representative of any organization with which I am affiliated, except, of course, for the Center for Social Justice. With that out of the way, I'd like to start with thanks and celebration. Thank you for responding to the invitation of the Center. It cannot always be taken for granted that when a think tank calls, even with high-profile guests in the middle of a pandemic, people would necessarily show up both physically and virtually. Ladies and gentlemen, in the build-up to the event, one constantly recurring question has been whether the Leadership Dialogue would feature His Excellency President Akufo-Addo at some point. We conceptualized today's dialogue as a head-to-head presidential debate between leaders of the two major political parties. The discussions which we initiated are still inconclusive, however. In the absence of a debate, we are grateful to His Excellency President Mahama for agreeing to have his proposal scrutinized by the CSJ panel and the audience present physically and on social media. The CSJ remains committed to offering its platform for a full-blown presidential debate to inform electoral decision-making in respect of the 2020 presidential election. A couple of years ago, a few friends and I started mulling the idea of a think tank to amplify usually unheard voices, elevate the political discourse, and demand accountable leadership, and with undisguised sympathies for addressing the inequities of our society, especially among the poor and vulnerable. To an extent, the vision for the formation of the Center for Social Justice has been justified by certain observations made by the leadership of the CSJ in the run-up to today's dialogue. A week ago, I was fortunate to visit a community outside of the Greater Accra region. In some conversations with the Honorable Assemblyman of the community, the matter of citing the community's water source came up. Subsequently, I learned about the age-old custom of Edabone, to wit, bad day. Apparently, one day out of every 6 weeks is labeled a bad day, characterized, among other things, by the prohibition of women from visiting the chief's palace. Given this fact, it was frankly very shocking to me to observe that the community's water source was located in the chief's palace. With women being largely responsible for fetching water in this community, I have still not been able to wrap my mind around the decision to locate the water in the one place that women could not go to once every 6 weeks because of Edabone. Surely, if women were the decision makers, it is hard to imagine them taking such a decision to the disadvantage of the entire community, especially the children. Clearly, this calls into question issues around gender, power dynamics, and social inclusion. It is for this reason that the Center for Social Justice has been put together. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Center is a platform for academics, activists, and patrons advocating for progressive social transformation and people-centered development. Ultimately, our vision is to achieve equitable access to wealth, opportunities, and privileges of the Ghanaian society for everyone. We also strongly believe in the freedom of each citizen to contribute positively to decision-making processes. Tonight, you may hear questions from trade unionists, journalists, students, doctors, Okada riders, and the leadership of the Greater Accra Market Association. Over the course of the next few years, the Center for Social Justice will pursue 4 objectives. The first is that we will take individual and collective responsibility for our own political education on matters of political ideology, accountable use of power, transformational leadership, and personal integrity. To this extent, we welcome our new partnership with the Friedrich Ebert Stiftung, which we believe would enable us to leverage numerous educational resources that they have. Secondly, we are going to deploy research to provide evidence-based left-of-center policy alternatives and to assess the impact of government policies on poor and vulnerable communities. To this extent, we are happy to announce the Center's completion of a study protocol ready for deployment in the first quarter of 2021. We plan to assess the impact of the free SHS program on access and quality among poor and vulnerable populations. 3, we will hold all governments and public institutions accountable to the highest standards of good governance practices, believing that bribery and corruption should not be tolerated in any form or shape. And finally, we will embark on community improvement projects as a small contribution to lessening the suffering of others, be it through boreholes, community libraries, or renovation of dilapidated classroom blocks. The CSJ will remain independent-minded, always acting in the supreme interest of Ghana and not any individual or political party. Current events in Nigeria make it painfully clear that ignoring the real issues of the mass of the people is, in the long run, an exercise in futility and can only lead to social unrest and even worse consequences. As Wole Soyinka, the famous poet laureate, powerfully questioned the youth of Nigeria recently, why is it that this age bracket is today incapacitated, unwilling, unable, and incapable of asking questions? But tonight, you will hear powerful questions from a panel of relatively young intellectuals. Let me celebrate Dr. Amanda Kofi, Research Fellow, Lagos Center for International Affairs and Diplomacy. She says I should remember to add the diplomacy. Our moderator and our two esteemed panelists, Dr. Lord Malco Yevuga, Head of the Department of Public Administration and Management, Public Management and International Relations, and Gimper School of Public Service and Governance, and my sister Shamima Muslim, Chief Executive and founder of the Alliance for Women in Media in Africa. Thank you all for seeing this as a national service. You have also shown great courage in stepping up to support in this endeavor, and I'm grateful. Thank you and have a good evening.
So thank you very much, Dr. Soji Tete. You now know what the Center for Social Justice is about. For most of us here, it is a call to duty, which we readily responded to, because we believe that the resources of this nation should be equitably distributed. And some of us have a personal interest in ensuring that among all the equitable distribution, at least we should be able to achieve gender equity. So that is our reason for being here. And as Soji rightly said, there are some personal disclaimers. So we are here in our personal capacities because of what we believe in. So once again, I would like to thank you for your presence at today's gathering, and for showing up, and also sharing your questions with us to be able to brood over it and think over it in order to put up this program this evening. So, the time has come for what we all are waiting for this evening. And I have the pleasure, and I'm humbled, to be the one to introduce to you the keynote speaker for this evening's program. I'm not going to bore you with so many things about him. He's well known, and he's presenting himself once again to Ghanaians to be scrutinized, and there's a lot that we can say about him. But today, it's about the platform that he wants to reveal to us and to share his views and what he hopes for Ghana in the next 4 years to come. So his name is His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, the former president of the Republic of Ghana. He was once the chair of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, and his most current job description is the flag bearer of the National Democratic Congress. And tonight he's here to tell us what the National Democratic Congress, after 4 years of being in opposition, wants to, their plans for Ghana. And so we have the pleasure of having him in our midst. He's going to speak to us about the platform, and then subsequently our able panel members will be seated to interrogate the platform. And you would also have the opportunity to interrogate the views that he shared. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former President of the Republic of Ghana and the flag bearer of the National Democratic Congress, presidential candidate for the 2020 December elections. Please welcome the former president.
Thank you very much. Good evening, and thank you very much, my friends from the Center for Social Justice, for the invitation and opportunity to share in your platform the Leadership Dialogue Series. Moderator, Dr. Amanda Kofi, and panelists, professionals, businessmen and women, executives, and members of the Ghana Disability Federation, ladies and gentlemen, I am definitely glad to be here. And to you, the distinguished guests with us tonight, thank you for coming. Thank you, my brothers and sisters who are joining us from various parts of the country and the world on TV, radio, and various social media platforms. Ladies and gentlemen, if there was ever any doubt about how unpredictable our world has become, how unknown the future remains, and the terrifying thought of how our collective existence could be threatened with very little notice, the evidence is right before our very eyes in this hall, across our nation and the world. Who would have thought that even a year ago that a gathering of professionals and a cross-section of Ghanaians from various strata of society would be required to wear masks and sit apart from each other in safety in public and be viewed conspicuously should any one of you give as much as a little cough or a sneeze. This is why it is important to build a nation that is robust and resilient and has the necessary buffers to withstand the periodic global shocks that affect the world economies and dislocate normal living from time to time. Where would we be? Our mothers, our fathers, our sisters and brothers, our wives, husbands, our children, our friends, colleagues, and ourselves. Where would we have been without the various health facilities located across the country? Without the valiant and well-trained health professionals, without water and electrification, infrastructure, without the emergency stabilization fund to purchase personal protective equipment and other medical supplies, among other interventions the nation fell on in the fight against COVID-19 pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, when we established the Stabilization Fund while in office as part of the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, it was a visionary move. I'm glad it came in handy earlier this year, even before the International Monetary Fund bailed Ghana out when COVID-19 arrived on our shores. But there are many more threats ahead, which we together as one nation must confront with vision, strategy, and hard work. Most of these threats are captured by the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, which we must achieve within 9 years from now, that is by the year 2030. But beyond the threats, and even within the threats, there are opportunities too. My dear professionals, when you look ahead 10 years from now, what kind of Ghana do you envision for yourselves and your children? Indeed, I have dedicated some quiet moments towards this exercise, and I see a peaceful, stable, and prosperous nation with opportunities for all, where jobs and infrastructure are abundant and the fruits of our economic success are shared equitably. Of course, this would be a mirage, a mere pipe dream, if we do not work at it together with the requisite structures and strategies. This vision can only be achieved if we defeat petty partisanship, toxic tribalism, and ethnocentrism. This vision can only be realized if we abandon the gown of favoritism during recruitments and promotions at workplaces, that is military, police, prisons, immigration, judiciary, civil, and public services, and then don the garments of merit-based recruitment and promotions. We are one people bound together by a common destiny. We can do it, and I am ready, very ready, and willing to lead the way if you grant me your mandate on December 7th. My dear people of Ghana, the sovereign people of our land, this is why I come before you this evening as a unifier to tell you once again why I'm running for president. Let us make it a collective duty to bring about the positive change that we all desire in ourselves, in our youth, in our communities, in our country, and for generations yet unborn. In John Dramani Mahama, you find a unifier, a visionary, a president you can trust. You'll also have a president with a track record of delivering massive development with far less resources than has been available to the current government over the past 4 years. I do not take it for granted that I have been blessed with a unique opportunity to step back from government, reflect, and seek your mandate once again to be president of our republic. I do not take this lightly because, my brothers and sisters, there's so much to do, so much to avoid, and so much to repair. So let us be on the move from now till 7th December, and when you are voted for the NDC, you can hold our feet to the fire of accountability to deliver on the mandate that you grant us. Ladies and gentlemen, time is of essence. 9 years from now, the timeline for achieving the Sustainable Development Goals will catch up with us. As humanity moves towards tallying the results around another round of globally targeted developments, how do we want to be counted as Ghana? I believe our dear Ghana must be counted as one of the nations that substantially met the SDG targets and the impact reflected in the lives and conditions of our people. They say health is wealth, and I believe health truly is wealth. But this should not mean that one must be wealthy to access good health care. We must work to eliminate the agony of a mother or father witnessing the death of a sick child due to his or her inability to pay for health care. Unfortunately, however, the quest for health for all cannot be achieved at our current pace, nor with the current arrangements, which is mainly our National Health Insurance Scheme. Our yearly population growth rate is 2.2%. Meanwhile, the NHIS has been growing on the average at 0.27% per year between 2017 and 2019. The rate must be consistent with population growth if we are to attain health for all by 2030. If you consider this, we haven't done too well. Successive governments in our fourth Republican democracy have contributed to the establishment of the growth of the National Health Insurance Scheme. It was piloted in the 1990s by President Jerry John Rawlings and implemented in 2007 as a district mutual health insurance scheme by President Ajekum Kufuor. Unfortunately, under the initial implementation of the scheme, subscribers could not access health care outside of the districts where they were registered. I was privileged to have served in the government of President John Evans Atta Mills, which converted the scheme into a truly national one, with service delivery available to subscribers anywhere they found themselves in the nation. As things stand today, only 40% of our population are on the National Health Insurance Scheme. And Oxfam International, which works in more than 90 countries, suggests in a 2019 report on extreme inequalities in Ghana that only 2% of Ghana's poor, as defined by the United Nations, are on our health insurance. This implies that a staggering 98% of those classified as poor in Ghana, who are more susceptible to various communicable and non-communicable diseases, are excluded from the social protection provided by the NHIS. Further evidence indicates that vulnerabilities within specific groups, such as persons with disability and the aged, impede access to the NHIS. Also, despite the existence of the NHIS, healthcare costs are still very high. At this rate, we are nowhere close to achieving health for all by the year 2030. My brothers and sisters, the situation may actually be more critical and dire than we realize. This state of affairs is a travesty that flies in the face of social justice. And as a social democrat speaking on the platform of the Center for Social Justice, I wish to reiterate that we owe the poor and vulnerable groups in our society an urgent transformational solution and not a piecemeal approach. And this is why I urge you to support the free primary health care policy contained in the NDC's People's Manifesto. This urgent transformational solution to our health needs, free primary health care, will provide better health care for all Ghanaians, including the poor and vulnerable. People with disabilities will be supplied with assistive medical devices. Let me be very clear. The free primary health care policy will provide health care for all Ghanaians at no cost in district hospitals, polyclinics, clinics, health centers, and CHIPS compounds. You will not need a health insurance card, state or private, to benefit from free primary health care, and you will not have to pay a premium to benefit. In addition, free primary health care will emphasize preventive health and health promotion and will include private health service providers. Ladies and gentlemen, free primary health care will be the single largest social intervention under the Fourth Republic. It will create jobs for the young people, nurses, midwives, physician assistants, drugstore owners, pharmacists, doctors, IT professionals, and many others. We estimate to spend Ghana cedi 1.4 billion annually on free primary health care from December 2021. And ultimately, it will be money well spent because it will ensure a healthy nation. We believe a healthy nation translates into a healthy workforce that will contribute to the growth of the economy and lead to massive job creation and improved livelihoods. Ladies and gentlemen, a healthy nation translates into a healthy workforce that will contribute to the growth of the economy and lead to massive job creation and improved livelihoods. We've outlined our plan to develop and create a minimum of 1 million jobs under our Ejumapa plan. We went to the people, they spoke, and we listened. As stated in our manifesto, our 1 million jobs in 4 years Ejumapa job creation plan will be the predominant preoccupation of the next NDC administration. We propose to create 250,000 jobs every year to enhance the livelihoods of Ghanaians. This also fits into goal number 8 of the Sustainable Development Goals, which is decent work and economic growth, which must be attained by the year 2030. In order to foster fairness, transparency, and accountability in the distribution of available job opportunities, we shall enact an Employment Act to provide a comprehensive framework for job creation and collection of labor market statistics. Under Ejumapa, we intend to create a 24-hour economy where 3 shifts of 8 hours each day would be the norm in order to meet the anticipated national and foreign demand for goods from Ghana as we aggressively diversify our economy and add value to our products for local consumption and for export. The 3 8-hourly shifts will place Ghana in sync with the world in order to prepare our economy to become an advanced one. Ladies and gentlemen, our competitive geographical advantage is that we are the center of the world. When America is waking up and Asia is going to bed, we are wide awake in the afternoon. This is why I established the Accra Digital Center to serve as a major hub for business process outsourcing. My administration built the National Data Center and also employed 4G technology, which specifically is providing high-speed internet today and has been a major driver of online meetings via Zoom, Skype, WhatsApp, amongst others, particularly during this COVID-19 period. We will develop 5G technology, train more computer programmers, build a knowledge-based economy where e-commerce flourishes and moves Ghana faster into the new world of smart manufacturing and digital services. This will provide decent and sustainable jobs for all Ghanaians. In addition, we shall establish a fertile environment for the private sector by significantly reducing the cost of doing business in Ghana. Our decline on the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business Index will be tackled to satisfy the Association of Ghana Industries, traders, and Ghanaians at large. We automated the Registrar General's Department to facilitate business registration, and we're promising to do even more. We'll also work hand in hand with stakeholders to be assured they will invest the gains in ventures that will expand businesses to create more jobs for young people. Let me reassure you that we intend to scrap the 25% corporate income tax for small businesses with turnover below 200,000 Ghana cedis, and reduce corporate income tax for Ghanaian businesses from 25% to 15% for Ghanaian medium-scale businesses. Furthermore, as I said before, we will not only offer a 2-year tax holiday for youth startups and businesses, but we will also provide a 2-year corporate income tax exemption for newly incorporated medium-scale businesses that employ 20 people or more. Ladies and gentlemen, I promise to refocus and reorient the operations of the Ghana Exim Bank, which I established in 2016 to promote exports and create sustainable jobs. The lack of transparency in disbursement and flagrant abuse of funds of the bank on non-core activities to the neglect of many core and legitimate viable business plans begging for credit saddens me. Under my watch, the Ghana Exim Bank, in addition to other funding streams, will support agriculture and agribusiness for both the domestic and export markets through the creation of agro-production and processing zones in all major crop-producing areas across Ghana. It is our expectation that these interventions will make Ghana self-sufficient and a major exporter of finished goods, processing of cashew, cocoa, shea, palm, cassava, pepper, ginger, fruits, and rubber will also be emphasized to put money in the pockets of farmers and entrepreneurs. Ladies and gentlemen, the fishing, poultry, and livestock industries will be a key pillar in the quest to make Ghana self-sufficient. We shall hand over the administration and management of premixed fuel to transparently constituted landing beach committees and ensure it is affordable and available for fishing communities. We shall equip the Ghana Navy to fight psycho fishing. Subsidized outboard motors will also be made available and fishers will be encouraged to engage in commercial cage culture on lakes and rivers. To meet our protein energy requirements, attention will also be given to both the poultry and livestock industries. Still in the agricultural sector, cocoa farmers will be given free fertilizer as it used to be under our administration. And in general, farmers will be supported with inputs and implements and tools to improve their yields. Ladies and gentlemen, COVID-19 revealed the need to invest in our pharmaceutical industry. Borders were closed and countries were looking inward. I'm glad that in my period I invested in Ghana's pharmaceutical industry. We laid a solid foundation by injecting over $20 million in Tobinco Pharmaceuticals, NS Chemist, Danex, Dan Adams, and Kinapharma to enhance local production of pharmaceuticals and provide jobs. We have done it before, and we will do it even better. We will do it even better by making available financial and technical support to indigenous pharmaceutical companies. We need them to produce to drive the free primary health care program. We also need them to serve the sub-regional market while creating the needed jobs in the local economy. In my recent visit to the Western region, I assured small-scale miners that my administration will pursue equity and justice. Their missing excavators will certainly be investigated and restored to them, and the perpetrators severely punished. I also assured them we will establish a gold board which will support them to mine in peace while respecting environmental health and safety guidelines. And to add value to their profits, we'll refine most of the gold here for export. We'll involve the central bank in certifying quality refined Ghanaian gold, and we'll also work with the NUST Jewelry Training Center to establish a first-class unique jewelry market in Ghana. This is part of our strategy to create decent jobs in mining communities, as we also protect the environment, including water bodies, in this climate-challenged world. As Social Democrats, we also believe it is the business of government to create jobs, as we support the private sector to do the same. As a result, we've conducted a thorough human resource gap study into the public sector. I commend our team for their diligence and the professionalism with which they attached to this study. The study reveals the need to optimize employment opportunities within the public sector if we are to deliver professional and responsive public service to Ghanaians, including foreigners who come for tourism or for business, including education and healthcare. Specifically, analysis of the human resource gap study shows that the Ghana Education Service has a gap of 98,650 workers, and the Ghana Health Service has a human resource gap of 76,795. The security services also reveal several opportunities. Ghana National Fire Service has a resource gap of 30,136. The Ghana Immigration Service has a resource gap of 3,522. The Ghana Prison Service has a resource gap of 7,925. The Ghana Police Service has a resource gap of 35,020, and many more. Together with the private sector, we'll create real jobs, not temporary and artificial jobs. If you have been, so that people can live dignified lives. If you've been engaged under NAPCO, I say to you that you belong to Ghana, you are Ghanaian, and not to any individual group or party. You deserve permanent jobs like all our other citizens. The welfare of workers is also key to our national progress and prosperity. Therefore, we plan to amend the National Pensions Act 2008, Act 766, to allow workers who lose their jobs suddenly, such as COVID-19 did to many private sector workers, to be able to be paid a stipend while they search for new opportunities. Also, workers who have contributed for between 10 to 15 years will be allowed to use their contributions as a collateral to access mortgage loans in order to have a place to lay their heads. After long years of work, the days of retirement will come, and come it will. We know the formal sector has the tiered pension scheme, which needs to be enhanced. We've already committed to paying pensioners an annual 13th month bonus. But how about the informal sector? This is why the next NDC government will introduce a new pension scheme for organized groups in the informal sector. This would include cocoa and cashew farmers, drivers' unions such as GPRTU, Protoa, and cooperatives, Ghana Union of Traders Associations, dressmakers and tailors associations, market associations, garages associations, artisans associations, and farmers and fishermen associations. We will contribute a percentage on behalf of any group that participates in the new informal sector pension scheme. With this, both young and older adults can enjoy a fair share of the national cake, and our quest to build a resilient and sustainable nation will be well rooted. Colleagues, it is well documented that in spite of our first-term challenges, including an almost one-year election petition, the fall in the prices of global commodities, and the crippling power crisis, popularly called doomsday, which we suffered and which we eventually resolved, we were able to chalk significant success in the area of social and economic infrastructure and economic stability for job creation. We developed our oil and gas energy infrastructure, we built secondary schools and universities, we built hospitals, we built interchanges and roads, we built airports and harbors, markets, we expanded electricity and water to communities that did not have it, and we built ICT and digital infrastructure, including the e-government projects and many more to prepare the youth to partake in the opportunities that a liberalized economy presents. This we did with the relatively little resources we had compared to what the current government has had today. After we resolved the power crisis in late 2015, my government worked very hard to create the right business environment, culminating in the World Bank declaring Ghana as being the best destination for doing business in West Africa, ahead of Nigeria and Ivory Coast. Indeed, due to our investment in the economy, Ghana was projected to achieve a growth of 8% of GDP in 2017, which was supposed to be sustained in the years to come. Predictably, the NPP administration, which came into office in 2017, inherited that growth, but could not increase or sustain the height we chalked in the economy, and in subsequent years, 2018 to 2019, recorded growth that has been below the 8% mark. Ladies and gentlemen, contrary to the impression created by Nana Akufo-Addo that he inherited nothing from me and that he inherited a mess, I left him revenue from 2 new oil fields, the 10 field and the ENI Sankofa fields. I left him with $270 million in the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund. I left him with more than $207 million in the Stabilization Fund, and about $300 million in the Sinking Fund, with which the final payment of the COFOR Eurobond was paid on maturity in 2017. As for the 2020 growth, the economy that was sold to us as being resilient and capable of withstanding shocks for at least 3 months without any external intervention could not stay afloat without IMF support for more than 3 weeks. Excuse me, I'm the one coughing instead. Even worse, the rate of borrowing by this government has dazed many observers. The IMF, in its Sub-Saharan African Regional Economic Outlook, forecasts the current rate of borrowing and debt at a frightening 76.7% debt to GDP ratio. Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, it's my unpleasant duty to inform you that Ghana is back to HIPC status under Nana Akufo-Addo and Ken Ofori-Atta administration. But growth in itself will not mean much if the people it is supposed to give improved livelihoods and jobs are left behind. And this we, the NDC, are determined to address. We observe that a vast percentage of Ghana's economy is controlled by foreign establishments who end up repatriating their profits made in this country to their countries of origin. This is why we've decided that the next NDC government will create more opportunities for Ghanaian businesses to grow and thrive. We'll strengthen the regulatory framework and restore and work actively to increase Ghana's stake in the financial sector, especially in the banking, microfinance, and savings and loans enterprises. This will enable many banking professionals who lost their lifetime employment during the deliberate, poorly thought through, callous collapse of banks and financial institutions by this administration. This is particularly important because the traditional foreign banks have limited lending portfolios to our SMEs and informal sectors. It is the indigenous Ghanaian banks that do and that lend to small and medium and the informal sector, and that stimulates the economy. We must and we will put Ghanaian businesses at the center of our economic growth. It is only when Ghanaian businesses thrive and grow that our economy can also grow and create more jobs and prosperity. In doing this and in line with social justice, we'll create equal opportunities for Ghanaian businesses and not deal with them based on political color or family affiliation of their owners. Government will give them priority in procurement from budgetary sources, and we will use government's financial muscle to boost Ghanaian business. The big push. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an undisputed fact that the NDC government delivers on social and economic infrastructure. We are therefore very much aware that it is our duty to provide these for the people of Ghana under the $10 billion Big Push infrastructure agenda. Let me assure you, architects, engineers, surveyors, and other professionals, that only locally registered professionals and contractors and local artisans will be used under this Big Push policy. We have the men and women right here in Ghana, and we estimate under the Big Push to create at least 400,000 jobs. We may have the Terminal 3 at Kotoka, or the Greater Accra Regional Hospital RICH, or the University of Ghana Medical Center, or the National Data Center, or Accra Digital Center, or Kwame Nkrumah and Kasua interchanges, or even the KJTR market, or community day schools, or the University of Environment and Sustainable Development, among many other infrastructural projects. But in order for our country to attain the heights we know we're capable of achieving, we must make urgent further investment in our socio-economic infrastructure. These notwithstanding, we need this $10 billion Big Push to put our 6 newly created regions and other deprived regions on an even keel with the endowed regions, so that no one is left behind in terms of development. Rightly so, as we are social democrats and we seek social justice and balanced social spatial development. The 10 billion investments under the Big Push in 5 years will complete all abandoned projects and projects commenced by this administration, by the current administration. The Eastern Corridor Road will be one of the key priorities. Major markets will also be constructed in Aflao, Mankazim, Techiman, Kintampo, Sampa, Elubu, Nima, Madina, Asesewa, and others. The markets will have daycare facilities and modern amenities which meet the needs of market women and their clients. The big push will also provide social housing for workers, including housing schemes in the Zongos and deprived urban communities. It will expand rural electrification, expand the 37 military hospital, build universities in the regions that currently do not have any, build modern theaters and centers for the promotion of the creative arts industry, construct a multi-purpose convention and exhibition center aimed at positioning Ghana as the West Africa's preferred destination for meetings, incentives, conferencing, and exhibitions, refurbish the National Theatre, upgrade infrastructure linking tourism sites to people, provide sports facilities across the regions, and complete and operationalize the Swami and Dawa industrial parks, and dualize our key highways. I will make the free SHS program even better. By working to eliminate congestion and abolish the double track within the first year of my presidency, I'll drive support for skills, technical and vocational training. My interest in TVET gained firm roots when I inspected an oil and gas project and was informed by the supervisor that they often have to bring in professional welders and other professionals from outside the country because Ghana just did not have enough of such trained personnel to deliver according to specifications and time schedule. From that moment, I decided that we needed to rebrand TVET from the basic level to the technical university level so that our young people can be equipped with the needed skills, knowledge, and qualifications and be well positioned to take advantage of the numerous employment opportunities or, alternatively, to employ themselves and others. As I have embarked on my tour of the country and in many communities, I observed that there are numerous unemployed young people, many of whom are teenagers, young men, some young women, many of them young with babies strapped on their backs. Our manifesto straddles all such youth. When I see them, I know instantly that we made the right decision going to the people themselves to ask them what we can do to improve their lives, because we have initiatives such as the National Apprenticeship Program that suits youth in this category. With the Free National Apprenticeship Program, the next NDC administration will institute with the Free National Apprenticeship Program, the next NDC administration will institute, government will engage and pay for the service of master craftsmen and women and artisans in the communities to equip and train the young people, including youth in Zongos and deprived urban communities, in various traditional vocations such as dressmaking, catering, hairdressing, auto mechanics, electricians, plumbers, etc. Upon completion of their training program, government will give these newly passed out trainees, will give them the needed tools and equipment so that they can start their own businesses and earn a living for themselves. We believe that the NDC's 1 million jobs plan and free TVET and National Apprenticeship Program, as contained in the People's Manifesto, are important because the failure to create jobs for the teeming youth could prove disastrous for this nation. It is a ticking time bomb, as events in our neighboring countries are clearly demonstrating. We stand to gain a lot as a nation because we'll rope in the informal sector in our proposed digital economy, which seeks to train many computer programmers, and the country can earn more revenue to support our nation's development. On education, we'll strengthen preschool and basic level education, improve upon the constitutionally mandated free secondary education, and will also ensure quality in our educational system. We will complete the abandoned community day schools, as well as expansion of existing infrastructure, and as I announced earlier, inclusion of private schools in the implementation of the free SHS program. This will address congestion and ensure quality teaching and learning for all our children. Our manifesto pledges to open up legal education so that more of our qualified students who want to study law get the opportunity to do so. Interestingly, since we launched our manifesto, we have noticed a quantum jump in the number of admissions to law school. We shall similarly ensure that medical education is equally accessible to qualified persons without compromising quality. Recently, we learned that the obnoxious Public Universities Bill has been suspended after several months of protests by the university community. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we can see that the People's Manifesto is already working wonders, even from opposition. Many are convinced that if the government truly wanted to withdraw it, it would do so and not suspend it, only probably to bring it back after elections. But they won't be there, NDC will be there, so they won't have that opportunity. We in the NDC believe in the independence of institutions and not the politicization and control of them that have been foisted on us in these last 4 years. For us, an NCCS suspension is not good enough. We shall completely withdraw the vexatious bill. The tertiary institutions need government support and not government tyranny. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll absorb 50% of the fees of tertiary students for the 2020-2021 academic year. To mitigate the effect of COVID-19 on students and their parents, we estimate that this should add up to a cost of about 400 million Ghana cedis. We shall establish free Wi-Fi zones in all public tertiary institutions. And for the youth in Zongos and deprived urban communities, we will award scholarships to brilliant but needy students from basic to tertiary level, especially girls in areas like medicine, science, engineering, nursing, and other such vocations. My brothers and sisters, the National Democratic Congress is a party known for addressing the challenges of marginalized persons, such as persons with disability. We, however, feel that we must do more. This is why we have embarked on an affirmative action targeting persons with disability in the area of education. The next NDC government will implement a free tertiary education program for persons living with disability. This means that our physically challenged brothers and sisters will not pay any fees when they access tertiary level education. To support special needs education, we'll work closely with the Pediatric Society of Ghana and parents to institute early medical screening for newborn and preschool children in order to identify children with challenges. Apart from this, we shall reverse the shortfall in allowance to PWDs caused by this government's reduction of the District Assembly's Common Fund from 7.5% to 5%. We will raise it back to 7.5% so that PWDs can receive more money in their disability fund. And to remove the existing bottlenecks which militate against the PWDs' easy access to their funds, we've decided to establish disability funds in the districts with a board of trustees made up of PWDs and other important personalities in the district to attend to the disbursement of the fund to meet the needs of PWDs. While we create new jobs, we'll also prioritize people with disabilities and ensure that they have their fair share of the jobs as citizens in line with our principles of social justice. In conclusion, I'm overjoyed that even before the first vote is cast, the promises in the People's Manifesto have significantly aroused the sleepy conscience and attention of this government and have shaken them to act, albeit selectively and too late in the day, on some of our policy proposals. At this critical stage of our nation's history, Ghanaians deserve more than ever before a government that is honest and truthful to them, a government that takes responsibility and gives them the results and not excuses or blame. We shall work to unite and create opportunities for all, and not just for a privileged few. We shall bridge the gap between the rich and poor, end the repression of the media, end intolerance and discrimination against ethnic groups, religious groups, gender, and age groups. Above all, we shall consider it a civic duty and support all citizens to hold our government accountable to the people of Ghana without fear of recrimination. Together with you, we shall build a Ghana we can all be proud of, and we shall adopt a root and branch approach to the fight against corruption. Unfortunately, time will not permit me to share more of the many nuggets that are in the People's Manifesto that we will be implementing, God willing, from January 2021. But I am happy that there's an opportunity to discuss the issues I have raised, namely free primary health care, the economy, education, skills development, as well as job creation, the big push, the plight of people with disability, education, etc. And so I look forward to the question and answer session. And let me once again thank you, the Center for Social Justice, for giving me this opportunity. And I urge you not to give up, including all civil society, and urge you to continue to persuade the President for a one-on-one debate on our stewardship. To continue to persuade the President to come for a one-on-one debate on our stewardships. After all, he said, this election is about our track records. Let us talk about our track records and our programs for the future. It will inure to the benefit of Ghanaian democracy, and it will help our people make a good choice. I thank you very much, and good evening.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency John Dramani Mahama. As a lecturer and someone who is used to summarizing huge documents, I can really attest to your ability to go through the number of pages of the NDC's People's Manifesto to give us the highlights. So we really appreciate the effort that you've gone through to do that. And we are well aware that there are still some other issues within the manifesto that people in the room would like to have further discussions over that. As we prepare the stage for the next session and as His Excellency takes a breather, I would like to take the opportunity to acknowledge the presence of people in this room and those who are in attendance. We've continuously said that there are professional bodies in this room, and this is a dialogue with professionals. So we want to acknowledge and note the presence of professionals as groups and individuals who are here, and also other members who have graced this evening's occasion. So we have representative from the Greater Accra Market Women Association. We have representative from the Ghana National Association of Private Schools. We have representative from the Ghana Medical Association. We have representatives from the National Union of Ghana Students. We also have individual professionals, lawyers, teachers, medical doctors who are here in their individual capacity as professionals. And we also have the Professional Forum of the National Democratic Congress here. And And we also have individuals, and I would like to also acknowledge the presence of former ministers of state and former ambassadors who have joined His Excellency and are here. And I've noted Madame Marietta Brew, the former Attorney General of the Republic of Ghana. And also we have Ambassador Sam Yale, Mr. Sylvester Mensah, the former boss of the NHIA, who is here. And so we are really grateful for your presence this evening. And we also like to acknowledge the media that is here and our partners who are carrying this program live. Because of COVID-19, we couldn't open it up for all to be here, so we had to do both live and online sessions. So for those who have partnered with us and are helping to carry it live, we are very grateful. That is Argo TV, XYZ, and then also radio stations that are carrying live, and Facebook. And those who are watching on Facebook, we are very grateful for also joining this panel. So now the panel is set, and I would like to take this opportunity to introduce the two members of the panel who would further interrogate what His Excellency has presented to us, as well as other details within the manifesto. So I would like to take this opportunity to invite my colleague and sometimes I say my sister in crime. We've done a lot together, beginning from our days as undergraduates at the University of Ghana. And we share a lot in common, particularly issues that border on equity and particularly for women. So we have Shamima Muslim, who is the convener of the Alliance for Women in Media Africa, who is a panel member today. She will be with us and she would be posing some questions for. Kindly give her a round of applause. Thank you very much, Shamima. The second member on the panel is Dr. Lord Mauko Yovuga, who is currently a senior lecturer at the Gimpa School. He is also the director of their international relations program. His area of expertise spans across scholarship, and he also has an interesting background. He started as a journalist, has worked in the he's worked with think tanks and subsequently decided to go into academia, which he returned to Ghana and has since been with Gimpa and has been lecturing there. So tonight we also have Dr. Lord Mauko Yovuga. So we have our panel seated. I would like to acknowledge the presence of others in the gathering. We have Dr. Jehu Apia, Professor Collins Aholu, Mrs. M.F. Hadcastle, Golda Bampo, Maria Brustego, who are here to support His Excellency and also participate in this evening's discussion. We are grateful for your presence as well. So with all the introduction out of the way, and His Excellency, once again, we'd like to thank you very much for doing this after that long presentation, and we get to invite you once again to join the panel on the days for the next section of the program. It's going to be a lovely one, and I know you are really on top of it. Once you've done the summary, what we do in academia is that you present us the summary, and then we go into the details just to test if you really read it or you just read the abstract and the conclusion. So, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, can you please take your seat up here? Member of Parliament, to a Minister, Vice President, and President, and now as a leader of an opposition party seeking a comeback. To borrow our local slang, waiting man knows me before. Your Excellency, your rich experience. So, I mean, Ghanaians want to know, what will be different about this second coming of your leadership that we haven't seen and experienced before?
Well, then, wow. Then there's something wrong with her microphone. And she probably would declare conflict of interest. She's my daughter before we start. But thank you very much, Shamima. It's good to see you again. And as you said, I've seen it all. Worked at different levels of government, and that prepared me, for the presidency. We had challenges in the 4-year term that I served as president, but we had a good team that, rallied round, and we dealt with those challenges. As I said in the brief, our first almost 1 year was taken up with an election petition. It created a situation where all the donors and our partners, international partners, and even locally, created a wait-and-see attitude because nobody knew how the Supreme Court was going to determine the issue. And then after that, we had inherited a crippling power crisis, and so we had to work to resolve the power crisis. We also had inherited the single spine salary structure from the Kufuor administration. It was not a part of our program. It was the Kufuor administration that started it. But then it spiraled over into our period. So in my first term as vice president, we were negotiating with the various unions how to place them on the single spine. And then the payments started in 2012 and continued all the way into 2015, including the arrears and all that. And so it really put a lot of pressure on the economy. And so our ability to manage all that and still stabilize the economy, work on 2 new oil wells, put in instruments, that were going to create buffers for the economy, what contributed to a more stable economic environment before we left office. Given the opportunity, we would have done some more things, especially, like I emphasized here, in the way of technical and vocational education and training, and also youth employment. Because let's not underestimate it. Youth unemployment is a ticking time bomb. Anytime we talk about it, we say Africa has a youthful population, and so it has a good labor force, a virile labor force, and that is an advantage for our economies. But the downside is that we're not throwing up enough jobs as fast as possible to keep up with the growing youth population. And so what is happening in some of our neighboring countries is an indicator that if we don't do something urgently about it, it will explode in our faces. God has given me health, given me strength, given me the experience to be able to help my nation. My party has called on me, and I've risen to the challenge to serve my people once again.
Why must we trust you this time?
I don't think you distrusted me the other time.
Why must we trust that you will deliver on that which you have promised and purposed to do this time around? Briefly, sir.
My main promise in our first term in government was to deliver first-class social and economic infrastructure to Ghana, and I achieved that. That's, track record is unassailed, by even this current administration. My next promise is to work at providing more jobs for young people. And I've laid that clearly out in our manifesto on how we intend to achieve it. And we're going to achieve it working together. It takes not just the president to achieve his vision. It depends on the team you're working with, and then also getting the Ghanaian population to buy into your vision and work with you to achieve it.
Hello, Mr. President.
Yes, Prof.
Good evening. So we've listened to your presentation. So my question focuses on the economy. The NDC has promised a $10 billion big push, as you call it, for infrastructure development. as well as other interventions, social interventions, including the National Youth Agency, with a target of not less than 100,000 beneficiaries, and 250,000 ejumapa, among other things that the NDC is promising. Now, as you rightly mentioned, the IMF in a recent projection says that our debt to GDP ratio has moved to about 76%. And that is in addition to limited fiscal space going forward for any government, whether NDC or MPP, that come into power. Now, based on these financial and fiscal constraints that the IMF and we are talking about now, how does the NDC government that you may lead in January 2021 intend to fund all these projects that you've promised, given that our borrowing abilities will be limited, given that we've not been able to mobilize enough resources through tasks, for example? So how are you going to fund? Because in your manifesto, there's little said about how to fund some of these projects. So can you tell us how you intend to fund these projects? Thank you.
Well, we've thought it through, and we have a plan. Yes, this government has touted its management of the economy, but the facts show that they had more opportunity to make this economy more resilient against any external shocks. Unfortunately, they have been on a spending spree, huge borrowing. I mean, this is a government that criticized us for borrowing, and we borrowed 56 billion, added to a public debt 56 billion in the 4 years of my stewardship. And in 3.5 years of this government's stewardship, they've added in excess of 150 billion to the public debt. And so, I mean, this is a government that has no credibility when it comes to what it says and what it does. They have narrowed the fiscal space. They had access to more revenue. I left them ESLA, which was going to bring in annually 3 billion additional fresh revenues. I left them 2 oil fields, which were going to bring an additional almost $300 million a year. I left them with a Ghana Exim Fund. I left them with the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund. I left them with the Stabilization Fund. I left them with the Sinking Fund. You know, these are all funds that we left them. They've dissipated all those monies. Aside from dissipating the monies, they've additionally borrowed 150-something billion. So they have completely decimated the economy. The first thing I'll do is, when I become president, I'll hold a Century 2 forum. Remember our first Century forum, yeah? And we're going to bring all stakeholders, finance people, and everybody together. And we're going to chart the path for economic development. That's the first thing we'll do, so that we can get a buy-in from everybody. But relating directly to the issue of the big push, we estimate that about 40% of those projects will be able to be self-financing, especially the economic ones. And we have a history of doing it. We built Terminal 3 without encumbering public debt. All we did was we released the 60% of the airport passenger levy that government used to take and put in a consolidated fund. It is $100. We used to take $60 of the levy and give airport company only 40%. And so when I asked them to build Terminal 3, they came up with a suggestion and said, just give us our full $100 passenger levy and then cut us free. We will do Terminal 3 on our own balance sheet. And once we did that, that is what they used to do Terminal 3, do the apron work, do the work in Kumasi and other places. And so there's smart borrowing that you can use, because some of the economic infrastructure will pay for themselves. Look at the new port we have, the expanded port. It is without a single dollar on Ghana's public debt. And so we have a track record of doing this kind of thing. And we will leverage that again. So you dualize the highways, and you can toll them at different places. And as people pay tolls, the money goes to pay it. Of course, with social infrastructure, schools, you cannot expect that you'll be able to get back the cost of the school, especially as we have free SHS. And so, You cannot expect to get back the cost of building a hospital because, I mean, it's a social good. You get it indirectly by healthier people. You get it indirectly by the people that are educated. But what we'll do in this case is what we're doing with the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund. A portion of VAT annually was supposed to go into the GIF, and then also a portion of our oil revenues were committed to the GIF. And then GIF was being used as a vehicle, investment vehicle, for collateralizing those revenues and raising money on the international market. And so for the other aspect of social infrastructure especially, we will use GIF as a vehicle to collateralize some of our revenues and use that to raise money to build the hospitals and the schools and the clinics and police stations and other things that we need to do.
So, Mr. President, are you suggesting that your next government is not going to focus more on taxing the people as a way of raising revenue rather than using the existing facilities? Is that what you are promising Ghanaians this evening?
Well, with the debt, what I'm saying is that we're not going to put much more on the public debt because, I mean, we're HIPIC already, 76.7%. I mean, there's no borrowing space left. If you borrow, I mean, you can't hit 80, 90% of GDP, especially as a lower middle income country. And so we're going to do the 10 billion big push and other borrowing in a way that does not increase the debt. But at the same time, we need to cool off the fiscal because we're going to end with a deficit of more than 16% at the end of 2020. We already know the debt to GDP is going to be high. And so it means that fiscal space is going to be limited. So we need to be very smart, especially in terms of revenue mobilization. Already we are promising a stimulus package to small taxpayers. We estimate that it should cost about 1.4 billion a year. But it's like investing 1.4 billion in the small enterprise sector. It will allow them to employ more people. So we're not going to lumber people with more taxes, but we're going to do something. For instance, we are suggesting that NHIL should be removed from the list of exemptions. So if government grants exemption, it can grant exemption on its VAT, but it must leave the national health insurance so that more money can come into the health insurance. There are many other smart ways that we will raise revenue without burdening, our local businesses. I believe that the kind of stimulus that the 10 billion will create within the economy will generate taxes also for government, because if Ghanaian businesses are working, they'll be able to pay their taxes. And if the taxes are less, like we've done, reducing from 25 to 15% for medium-sized enterprises, then the level of compliance will go up. Aside from that, we need to cut down waste. I mean, 125 ministers is outrageous. 1,900 presidential staffers. 1,900 presidential staffers is outrageous. And so there are many ways we can we can cut waste and reduce the size of government so that we can save money and rather than tax the ordinary business people.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Still staying on mobilizing resources to implement some of these promises. I guess one of the biggest questions on the hearts of many people in this room is the how question. And so with the matter of free senior high education, you have said that you're going to implement it even better, in your own words, and scrap the double track system by December 2021. So the question is, how are you going to fund that infrastructural gap that currently exists to allow for access, but most importantly, to ensure that quality is not compromised?
We've included the expansion in secondary education in the big push. And so part of the money from the big push, the 10 billion, is going to go into completing the community day secondary schools and then completing the abandoned infrastructure in secondary schools in order that we can create more space and access. I'll give you an example. We built a community day secondary school, E-Block, in Bamboy, which is in my constituency, Bole Bamboy constituency. And there was a JHS in Bamboy. And so when the children finished JHS, they either went to Bole Secondary School, which is about 81 miles north of them, or they came down to Wenchi Secondary School, or they went to Kintampo or Techiman. These were the nearest secondary schools to Bamboy. Now, we put a community day secondary school there, an E-block. And so when the children in Bamboy finish school today, they go into the senior secondary in their own community. And so it immediately would ease the pressure on Bole, Wenchi, Kintampo, and Techiman. And so I'm just giving you an idea of what those schools will do, to ease that pressure. And if we're able to build those schools and complete them on time, we'll be able to take the double track away, because we'll be able to...
Are you earmarking for that? For completing the senior high schools, for instance?
We have to do the costing. Each senior high school, the community day in our time costs about 7 million Ghana cedis, plus or minus, depending on the location. Cement prices differ and all that, but averagely about 7 million. Today I'm told that the cost of finishing, some of those schools, so even building that school has virtually doubled. And so it means that we're going to pay more. If this government had continued and finished, most of them, we probably would have done it at a lesser cost. And so that is something we will work out. Some are near completion. They've been roofed. They have doors and windows. It just needs plastering and putting the furniture in and all that. But we need to do an inventory of where each is, because they are not at the same level. Some were at the first floor level, others were at the finished level. Unless we get civil engineering to do that estimation, we can't tell. But
currently, we are unaware of the exact amount of money from the 10 billion big push that we might be committing to the infrastructure at the secondary school level.
No, I'm talking about completing the schools. And I'm saying that until we do a civil engineering survey, because there are different levels of completion, we'll not be able to determine exactly how much. But we're committed to putting a significant amount in order that we're able to take the double track away. I mean, if it means, committing $600 million, $500 million, we should be able to do so and finish most of them.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. President, you actually touched on a very important subject, so I want us to go back there. When you were talking about the size of government, now, both parties, NDC, NPP, they've all touted the private sector to be the employer. Yet, we've seen the ever-growing size of our government in terms of ministries, departments, and agencies being created, special assistants, number of ministers, etc. Both parties do the same thing. So, in the next NDC government, what measures are you putting in place in order to really empower the private sector to be the employer, as we all say you would do? Then how are you going to make sure that this over-expansion, this growth in the size of government, and here we are not talking only about the public sector as a whole, but the executive machinery of government, the ministers, special assistants, and what have you. What are the promises that the NDC government will be making to Ghanaians in terms of controlling the ballooning nature of government? Thank you.
Actually, you must lay the blame squarely where it is. The tendency to increase the size of government and employ so many political appointees normally happens when the NPP is in government. It's not the same when NDC is in government. You can look at the statistics and you will see that NDC always has a leaner government. I remember in President Kufuor's time, he had been critical of our government. I was Minister of Communications at the time. And he was critical of our government of having too many ministers. And I think at the time we were 60-something ministers. I don't remember exactly how many, or 70-something. And then he came into office and he superseded the number that we had. And I remember that was a great confession. He said, it's easier to say it when you're out of government, but when you're in government, you even need more ministers. And if he had, you even appoint a minister for Ghana Airways. How many of you remember that? And so, really, ballooning the size of government, especially political appointees, is a characteristic of the NPP, not the NDC. When I was president, we had 23 ministries, 23 ministries. Of course, because of the constitutional requirement that the majority of ministers should come from parliament, often you have some skills outside parliament. And so when you appoint to make up for the majority, you have to bring some of the ministers as ministers of state at the presidency. And so I had about 6 MP ministers of state at the presidency. But the key ministries under my administration were 23. You know, this one we have Ministry of Procurement, Ministry of Sanitation, Monitoring and Evaluation, Ministry of Regional Integration, and I mean, every ministry, you know, Ministry of Business Development, you know, we didn't have all those ministries. And I think that some of those ministries can be integrated. Under our administration, we had the Ministry of Transport that incorporated railways, aviation, you know, ports and harbors, all together as one. We had a Ministry of Communications that included information, all as one ministry. And so we have a tendency of having, you know, fewer ministries than the MPP has. But like you're saying, the engine of growth should be the private sector. And it is the slow, poor growth of the Ghanaian private sector that is leading to this huge youth unemployment. Because in any developed economy you go to, the largest employer is the private sector, you know, and so we need to grow that private sector as quickly as possible so that it can employ more. And that's why we're introducing all these stimulus packages. That's why we're bringing the big push, which is restricted to Ghanaian businesses so that we can grow them. And then we can grow jobs in construction. When I became president, I told my roads minister that when it comes to our money, our budgets, the priority should be given to Ghanaian contractors. Before, Chinese contractors were winning our jobs, from which we were paying from consolidated fund. Well, not only Chinese contractors, let me say foreign contractors, but quite a huge number were Chinese contractors, but there were other foreign contractors. And so when I gave that caveat, you know, we started to give jobs to Ghanaian contracting companies. By the time I left office, at least there were 25 Ghanaian construction companies that had grown, had equipment stock, and could do any job like any foreign construction company could do. Unfortunately, this new government came, refused to pay them. Some of them have had their equipment auctioned by the banks from where they took facilities. And so we will grow Ghanaian business. Ghanaian business people are not enemies to government. Indeed, they help you by creating jobs for you. It's your responsibility to find jobs for your people. And so if somebody has a business and he's a businessman and you think he does not belong to your party, so because of that you kill his business, you kill his business and 200 people are laid off. 300 people are laid off. I estimate that since we left office in the construction industry alone, more than 150,000 people have lost their jobs.
But Mr. President, if I may just get you to commit somehow that this subculture of what people have come to describe as a job for the boys and girls, whereby every government, the imperial presidency, where every government uses the other office to just create these jobs, just to cater for party people or this, I mean, just foot soldiers, literally speaking, who don't really do much. And they draw on the public purse, in all the perks that they get. Can we get you to commit that having been in government and having seen what was happening, and now that we are looking from outside, are there any commitment that you can make to the Ghanaian people that next time around you're going to do something about this subculture? Thank you.
Doc, I keep correcting you that it's not every government. I don't know why you insist on saying every government. I mean, just hit the hammer on the head. The MPP government. I have already committed that we're going to reduce the size of government because I've committed to pay assembly members. And they ask me how you pay them. I say by having less ministers and less presidential staffers. That is a public declaration to the nation that I'll have less appointees than this government has, because I need to find money to pay the assembly members. And so we're going to make that sacrifice to be able to pay assembly members because they also are doing a good job. And we need them to help us to keep proper BEPS and DEPS records at the local level. So that is a commitment that I've made. My government will surely be smaller than this current administration.
Thank you, sir. Well, sir, your nomination of Professor J. Nano Poku Ajiman as running mate has been held as a significant decision. However, over the years, political parties or governments in power have failed successfully to meet their own promise of reserving a certain quota, 30%, 40%, of appointments for women in government. So question is, beyond the significance of that move, what might you be committing tangibly to do in terms of the numbers of women we should see in your next government should you win? What quota are you making that commitment live this evening to the women of Ghana?
In my first term in government, we used a quota of 30%, and we achieved it. In our political appointments, we achieved 30%. Indeed, most of the key ministries were held by women. Foreign Affairs, Hannah Tete, Attorney General Marietta Brio-Upon, Sherry Aite Fisheries, Jifar Tivo Transport, most of the key ministries. Nana Jino Poku Ajiman, Education, So most of the key ministries were manned by women, and they did quite good jobs. And if you came down even to the parastatal level, there were a lot of women chief executives. Controller and Accountant General was a woman. Our Director of Prisons was a woman. Of course, we met the Chief Justice. She was a woman there already. And so there were several key appointments that were held by women, and we met that quota. We've repeated that quota in our new manifesto to try and achieve 30% again of women.
Why are you staying at 30% when we want equity and parity? Why not 50-50? I see some of your competent women of your party here. Why not 50-50, sir?
It's an indicative figure. It says at least. It doesn't mean at most. It means at least 30%. And so if we can achieve 50%, I'm all for it. Yeah, it says at least, in order that we work hard to achieve it, more than 30%. If we can achieve 50%,
what might be the barriers, briefly?
The barriers are, in some cases, women's reluctance to serve in political office. Our politics can be unforgiving sometimes, and sometimes it's not easy to convince them. There's a lady I appointed minister, and when I was going to make the appointment, she was away, she was in South Africa. So I called her and said, I wanted to appoint you as a minister. And said, so give me a week or two to pray over it. And I have to call certain people and all that. I said, okay, I'll call you back, and then you give me the answer. But she was very reluctant. I had to persuade her, and then she eventually accepted. It wasn't only her. Another minister said she had to ask her husband, and she needs her husband's, say so before she accepted. Eventually, I was able to persuade her to. So it does not come as easy, but we have a lot of competent women who I think must give themselves to public service. I mean, the maligning and the insults and things, it's something you must develop a thick skin for. When I came into government as deputy minister, I had a very thin skin. Anything that was said about me, I couldn't sleep that night, And I was minded to correct every misinformation about me, and I'll write rejoinders and things and say, but you get to a stage where you realize it comes with a job, and your skin becomes as thick as a crocodile, But that is, one aspect of it, I would say that aside from that, they are all very qualified. But there's also that societal, especially when you go to the lower levels of government. Under President Akufo-Addo, he was going to nominate district chief executives. And I saw a video of a demonstration that they don't want a woman. And among those leading the demonstration were women. There was an old woman who said something, I've forgotten what the video was, but it was quite instructive. that there are these prejudices that we've built over the years about women's competence and all that. Because they had an experience with one woman DCE, she probably did not perform very well. But there were other women DCEs who performed well. And the other male DCEs who don't perform well. But they don't say we don't want a male DCE. It says we won't accept a female DCE, So those prejudices still exist. We all have to fight together to break them down.
I guess this probably will be Amanda, this will be my last question to Mr. President. Okay, Mr. President, the NDC's promise of a one-time health insurance premium in 2008 fell flat on its face because it was unsustainable. Now, two things. How can you convince Ghanaians today that your flagship program, which is the free primary health care program, will not suffer the same fate as the 2008 incident? And two, what do you tell your critics who say that your promise of free primary health care is meaningless because the NHIS already covers over 95% of diseases burden in the country, or the disease burden in the country? How do you respond to them?
Okay. What happened to the one-time premium? The premiums are just a small part of the money available to NHIS. The far larger part of money that comes into NHIS, first and foremost, is from the levy. Then the second largest is the 2.5% that they take from the pension SNIT, scheme. Then the third is the premiums. Now, we decided that, look, we could forgo the premiums and be able to run the health insurance. Unfortunately, when we came into office, like I said, we inherited the single spine. And the single spines crowded out all fiscal space. By the time we took office, wages and salaries were consuming almost 23% of tax revenue. And so 73% of tax revenue, 73% of tax revenue. So you had only 27% of tax revenue left for goods and services, capital expenditure, and all that. And once we started implementing the single spine, it ballooned the expenditure and narrowed the fiscal space. And so it made it difficult in that circumstance for us to implement the one-time premium. But with regards to the free primary health care, we've clearly outlined the source of funding. Currently, we're using the ABFA, the annual budget funding amount, which is from oil revenue, to fund free SHS to a tune of about 3-point-something billion. We're going to use the same annual budget funding amount to a tune of 1.4 billion to fund free primary health care. And so with this, we have clearly outlined where we intend to source the money. And we believe that if we use 1.4 billion of our annual budget funding amount from oil to ensure a healthy nation, it is money well spent.
Right. I think that's it from us this evening. So we thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to hold you accountable to what you promised the citizens of Ghana. And so the next round, Amanda would facilitate the Q&A from the audience. Thank you, sir. We'll take our leave from here and give you your spotlight.
So thank you very much, Shamima and Lord. We really appreciate this. And Your Excellency, thank you very much for your responses. So while we set it up for the questions from the audience, I would also like to acknowledge the presence of His Excellency, the former High Commissioner to the United Kingdom, Victor Smith. Thank you very much for gracing the occasion. And I would also like to acknowledge the presence of Professor Fred Binga, the Foundational Vice Chancellor of University of Health and Allied Sciences in the Volta region. So, Prof, sorry, I forgot about you. So I would like to give you the opportunity to be the first person to ask His Excellency the questions from the crowd. And on that note, I also like to acknowledge our media partners who are carrying the CSJ Professional Dialogue Series live. That's Joy New TV, TV Africa, Ago TV, TV XYZ, Power FM, Kasapa FM, Ebusia FM in Kumasi, Radio 360 in Takrady, also on Wozo TV, on Facebook and YouTube, and on John Mahama's Facebook and YouTube channel. So we've had questions on the from your channel, and we will be sharing that with you as well. So is Professor Binga here? All right, so Professor Binga, you get the chance to ask the first question.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for the expanded issues that you've raised and what you are promising us. I will focus on health, actually. I want to focus on the primary health care. I think people are confusing the primary health care with the National Health Insurance. The National Health Insurance does cater for illness. Primary health care is health. It's not only illness. And there's the need to differentiate the two, because primary health care provides something for everybody. It's not the same that you need to provide at every level. We had the level A, B, and C, the district hospitals, the health centers, and we extended it to the CHIPS compounds at the community level. But there are many more communities that don't have anything at all, and that is not fair. It's not equitable. So everybody must have something that addresses their health needs. Remember, health has to do with both our water resources, refuse disposal, sanitation, and all that. As we speak today, Ghana is rated as having only 15% of its population having adequate sanitation. This is just not good enough. So if you promise primary health care, we need to support that, and we need to help you to make sure it works. The question is, how are you going to integrate the private sector? In fact, if you look at the facilities that the government has at the moment, government has facilities in 8,000 facilities that we have across the country. Out of that 8,000, 6,000 are community CHIPS compounds. It's only 2,000 that have health centers, district hospitals, and so on. And if we take the approximate, if you use the electoral areas as populations with about 500 people, we have over 30,000. So we cannot expand overnight or in the next decade from 8,000 to 30,000. Okay. But we have many more people in the private sector that can fill this gap. The challenge has always been that this private sector involvement has always been a lip service. We don't give them much, and they don't give us much back.
Okay, thank you very much,
So that is going to be the
Prof.
major challenge.
Your Excellency, that's quite a professorial question there for you. So we will take 2 more questions, and then Your Excellency can move to the podium to address them. So I would encourage us to be very snappy with the questions. Time is fast spent. So I'd like to call on the representative of the Ghana Medical Association. So please take your turn.
Your Excellency, good evening. And I think Prof has taken the first part of my question, which is how the private sector will be involved in the free primary health care. But I just want to add a bit to it that we've had policies in this country where free health care services are promised but never delivered. Presently, all accident victims who visit the hospital within first 24, 48 hours are supposed to have free care, but it's never implemented. So how are we going to implement this free primary health care that involves the private sector? And the other one I wanted to find out is that human resource to manage this free healthcare. Sometimes when promises are made, it's easy to look at the infrastructure bit, but the human resource, you cannot produce it overnight. To get enough doctors, enough nurses, enough healthcare workers of all cadres to man this kind of service would need years of training. You have costed the free primary healthcare to be 1.4 billion. Is there a cost to the human resource development? And in what time approximation are we likely to get the requisite human resource to manage this? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So next is the Greater Accra Market Association. So please tell us your name and then we can go on with the question.
I'm Messina Afroanijan, President of Greater Accra Market Association. Your Excellency, all protocol observed. Thank you very much. As you mentioned the name, Greater Accra Markets Association, then you know that my first and foremost priority is about markets. And we have heard a lot from the People's Manifesto about markets. We know what was done formally about markets, which Greater Accra is included. Rather unfortunately, Cape Coast got their own, Kumasi got their own, the Ashanti region, but that of Greater Accra was delayed until the change. Please, I'm pleading on the behalf of the markets. Now, we are getting competition with these malls. So if you don't get modern and well-organized markets, it will come to a time where people will stop coming to the market. So we want more assurance from the president that if God permits, 2021, their first and foremost attention will be markets in Greater Accra.
Thank you very much.
Now, the second issue is we thank God that the president has taken a woman as the vice. We are very happy, but my advice is she's now a tree. So the presidency should make sure that they give her branches. That means industrious women that can support her and help her to do the work so that we that are on the ground, the vulnerables, can be helped. Because if they pick women to support her, they will be thinking of those of us on the ground about this thing, loans for us, about financial support, everything that we need to do our businesses. So we put that in the bowl of the president. The last but not the least is, please, we want some guarantee that there's going to be peace in the incoming election, before, after, and during the election. Because if there's trouble, those who suffer a lot are women and the markets, because everybody will be coming to the market to loot. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, Your Excellency, please take the podium.
Yes, the first question, Professor Binka, thank you very much for that question. I know you are some of the experts who we will have to rely on when we come to the implementation. We already have some experience with incorporating the private sector in the national health insurance, and there are many lessons learned that we can use in terms of implementing it at the free primary healthcare level. I loved what you said when you said free primary healthcare goes beyond. It is a broader, animal than our normal curative medicine. It promotes health and wellness in addition to providing cures for basic diseases and so on and so forth. It will include animating the society, to know what the source of diseases are, open defecation, drinking from poor water sources and so on and so forth. And so we expect it to encompass something much larger than the current NHIS does. And so we'll use the lessons learned from incorporating the private sector. For instance, we can accelerate coverage by incorporating the private sector. You go to a community and the only health facility there is a retired midwife who has set up her maternity home. And so she delivers children, and at the same time, if somebody has malaria or has a headache or has something, he comes in there and she looks at him and treats him. Aside from that, we also have the private pharmacies and so on and so forth, where for basic symptoms they can, give some, assistance. And so if we are able to incorporate all these people, we should be able to expand coverage. But of course, it means that we must continue to roll out, more facilities in the communities, because then if you don't have the facility in your community, definitely you cannot get access, because if you have to travel a certain distance to get access, then it defeats the whole purpose of doing it. And so the points are noted, and we'll incorporate the private sector in it in a meaningful way. The human resources, how to produce the human resources, to be able to man it. We've always recognized that as one of the constraints, because we build beautiful edifices, facilities for hospitals, but then getting the specialized, health professionals to come and run, those facilities have been a difficulty. And that is why we have said that we must accelerate training and expand training. When I was talking about the law course, I also referred to medical courses, that we expand training so that we can have more people come out there and work. Our problem is a structural problem. Getting some of the professionals to go into areas that are considered rural and more remote has been our major challenge. And so we resorted to trying to identify brilliant but needy students in some of these areas so that we could give them scholarships and come and train them, knowing that after they train, they'll be prepared to go back to the areas where they came from. We did that during the recruitment of the students who went to train in Cuba. We targeted underserved areas and underprivileged areas, and we selected the children from there. And the thinking was that when they finish and they come back, right now they're doing their housemanships and all that, but the intention is that once they finish their housemanships, they'll be prepared to go back to their communities and serve their people. So these are some of the things we can do to address the human resource gaps. And Madam Messinijan, and I want to acknowledge her, very capable woman. I remember when we had to do the reintroduction of the value-added tax after the Kumipreko. A committee was set up by the president to do the reintroduction of the VAT. And we had representatives from GUTA, the Markets Association and all that. And she represented the Market Women's Association. And she did a fantastic job in terms of educating the women about what the value-added tax is and how it would help the economy. And that's why today we have the value-added tax reintroduced successfully. But you're right, we did a lot of markets, and a whole market, Atonsu market, Asesawa market, Tafu market, so many of them all over the country, New Ebrim market, and there are so many. We wanted to do the markets in Accra, Nima, and several of the other markets, Sraha market, and we planned them to be on a BOT basis. And so we got private investors who are going to partner with government in order to re-engineer those markets. Unfortunately, we were not able to be successful before we left office, as she said. And so, yes, I agree with you. We'll give some priority to the markets in Accra, when when we have the next opportunity. Because the environment of the market must make it attractive for people to want to go there and do business. I mean, there are some of our markets that are such an eyesore. You go, and when it rains once, I mean, you're going to have to be holding your trousers and, tiptoeing through the mud and all that, and it doesn't look good. We need to modernize our market so that it creates a good environment for our mothers and sisters and our brothers who trade in these places. So that's why in our manifesto we've said re-engineer major markets across the country. Then women issues and selection of a female running mate. I believe it's a major step in the march for women's empowerment. For me, what it gives me, like I said, she's a very qualified woman, and we didn't choose her because she was a woman. I mean, she went through all the processes. In the end, she was the last woman standing. We started with 3 women. In the end, it was left with her and 4 men, And when we looked at, achievement, we looked at electoral advantage, and many other factors. I mean, it's naturally fell on her. So the advantage is that she was a woman, but not that we sought out to look for a woman. And so that's the first thing. But for me, the biggest advantage it gives us is to have a woman as a vice president. When the president is absent, the vice president chairs cabinet. And so it's no longer going to be tokenism about women's issues. I mean, at the very top seat of cabinet, the president sits at the top of the table, the vice president sits to the president's right. And so women's issues are going to be given more attention because the vice president is a woman. And so that thing where we had first ladies running around and doing advocacy for women and all that. Now in the highest decision-making body of the land, which is cabinet, you have women sitting as the vice president. If the president has traveled and there must be a cabinet meeting, she is going to chair that cabinet meeting. And so issues to do with women and children, I think, are going to get more attention than we normally would have had. Then we should commit to peaceful elections. I mean, NDC always commits to peaceful elections. If there will be any trouble, I can assure you it won't come from us. I can assure you it won't come from us. We have not mobilized vigilantes. We don't have any weapons or anything. We believe in the power of the people to protect the integrity of the election. And so I'm calling on all the people of Ghana, in whatever polling station you vote in, make sure that your voice counts and that nobody comes and disrupts the election in your polling station. We hear all kinds of stories. People have been trained. And even in the little registration exercises that we've done, you've seen strange characters in different kinds of uniform, holding pistols and things, threatening people and all that. That has been a character of this president. Since it's all die be die mantra, I mean, you can see that violence is something that he has associated with. And as soon as he came into office, we've seen all the things that happened. Delta forces storm a courthouse and chase a poor judge out. And instead of letting them face the full rigors of the law, they make them get off with a small fine. And they didn't even pay the fine. The fine was paid for them. And so they've gone around with those who perpetrated the Ayawaso West Wagon were asked to be sanctioned. Nobody has sanctioned them. The weapons they used to perpetrate that crime, they are still carrying those weapons. Armed robberies happen, we go check, you see Castle, Flagstaff House badges in some of the armed robbers' pockets. So they've created a climate of insecurity and they've compromised the safety of this country. Some of these people that they have put in the armed forces and the police service are known thugs. They are known in society. They were thugs involved in armed robbery and things. Today they are in the security forces. And so they work during the week as soldiers and policemen. Weekend, part-time, they go and rob. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. May I please plead with you to be on the podium while we take the next round of questions. This one is coming from a Ghanaian living in Ethiopia, so from our social media page. So I'm going to read it as it's stated. Former President, would you promise Ghanaians you and your minister will allow publication of your assets and liabilities that you declare before taking office? And when you leave office, will you subject yourself to lifestyle audits?
Yeah. No, it's a...
So we'll just take that one.
Should we take one?
No, we'll just take that one while we get to the audience too.
Okay. I have said that for those who wish to serve in my office, they should be prepared to publish their assets and have the assets audited. Those were my words. And so we'll seek to change the law, the regime that deals with assets, public assets declaration. Right now, it doesn't make any provision for publishing. And you have to deposit it with the Auditor General, and it is kept there under lock and key unless there's a court order or some legal process that requires that it be given. We must change that so that when people come into office, it is possible to investigate their assets and know what they had when they came into office and make sure that they are not, acquiring illegal wealth. Lifestyle audit is something that we have not been doing in Ghana, and that is because of the revolutionary experience. During the revolution, there were issues with lifestyle, how many toilets people had in a house, and those kinds of things. So it's created a certain issue like if you use lifestyle audit, you are witch hunting. But in all the advanced countries, lifestyle audits is something that is done. The taxman will come to you and say, how come you are using a new Benz car? What extra income did you have to buy the Benz car? Are you paying the right tax on your income? And they'll investigate the source of the car, and based on that, if you have underdeclared your taxes, you can be dealt with. And so it's something that we should go for. If we want accountability in public office, it's something that we must look at. But I'm fully for publishing our assets after we've declared them.
So you heard it here, he's fully offering publicize his assets upon taking office should he win the elections, and so goes to all his appointees as well. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. So another question we have coming from Facebook is, how different is your proposal for the Youth Employment Agency with a target of minimum 100,000 beneficiaries different from the existing measures, and how do you intend to fund this project? In terms of funding, there's another one that is related to the TVET, so I will take that as well, and then you can answer both. You've talked about providing TVET. There's a proposal in the NDC People's Manifesto, and you intend providing free opportunities and also access to TVET education in this country. How do you intend to fund such a project, considering the current, I think I'll leave it there. It's very unclear what we have here. So we'll just leave it at, how do you intend to fund the TVET proposal in your manifesto?
Yeah. First, the youth employment is funded through the communication service tax. That's one of the principal sources of funding. Ours is different because we are looking at proper skills upscaling in the period of the youth employment. Right now, it's used as a stopgap measure that young people have come out of school, they can't find work. So put them for 2 years into youth employment, and they just get a stipend, for 2 years. After that, you're supposed to graduate them and bring another batch in. But I'll say that it's an artificial job creation exercise. It's not sustainable. because you cannot continue expanding the number of people you employ under youth employment. And so the best benefit they can get, and I learned this from the Kenyan model, is the skills upscaling that they go through while they are in youth employment. We're not paying too much attention to that. We're just putting them in, take them to an intersection, let them direct traffic, go, do some teaching, do some sanitation modules and things like that. While they're there, we must provide them with skills so that it makes it possible for them to go into the world of work. But I think more importantly is the entrepreneurial aspect. In our time, we had the youth employment, and then we had the Youth Enterprise Support Initiative, which I think we should upscale in a better way, because young people have ideas. The problem they basically have is that they don't have access to credit at the right interest rate, affordable credit, and then they don't have the technical support to be able to set up their own industries. One of my regrets as president is that we did a pilot with 10 million Ghana cedis. And after the pilot, we're going to upscale the amount of money available, to the young people in the Youth Enterprise Support Initiative. We're not able to do that before we left office. But given another opportunity, we're going to make the Youth Enterprise Support Initiative as big as the youth employment, so that young people can come, set up their own businesses, and employ others to work. That is the only way that we can get, a handle on this youth employment issue. Technical vocational education and training. One of the major problems we have now is access. We don't have enough technical vocational educational schools. The secondary technical schools are very few. The technical institutes are very few. Many districts don't have technical institutes. The other institutions like NVTI training centers are not enough. So one of the major things under the big push is to upscale access and facilities for technical vocational education and training. And so we're going to fund that under the big push. And so part of the money will go into providing technical vocational education training centers in almost every district. Aside from that, we're going to make the technical universities available for training. Anywhere there's a technical university, when the school goes off, we'll do a modular system where we bring these young people in to come and train in various vocations. When school reopens, they go back. When schools close again, they go and continue. And once they finish their modular session, they get their certificate, and then they are released to go into the world of work. We will fund it from our sources, our oil revenues, because we have done a new definition for capital. The oil revenues were meant for capital investment, but then human capital has been accepted as capital development. And so we'll find the money. For the facilities, we'll do under the big push, but the financing for the students to go and study, we will do. We're doing it for free SHS. I mean, why won't we do it for technical and vocational education?
Thank you very much. So we are still on education. So we'd like to invite the representative of the Ghana National Association of Private Schools. Yes, please take the microphone. And then we would ask the representative for the National Union of Ghana Students to also get ready. Please, we are running late. So if we could be very snappy with the questions, we really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Damasus Turoson is the acting president of the Ghana National Association of Private Schools. 3 snappy ones. We were very elated when we heard that private schools were supposed to be part of your free SHS initiative. But then we are scared at people talking about you absorbing our schools and therefore making them free. So are you going to absorb private schools to become government schools and make them access the free SHS? That's one. There's a pre-tertiary education bill currently before Parliament, and that bill scares us a lot. Aspects of the bill as that private schools will also need to have professional and licensed teachers. No teacher can teach in Ghana if the person is not professional and licensed. And yet we are unable to employ and pay professional teachers. So what are you going to do about that bill? And last but not least, private education sector is the worst affected by the COVID-19. Post-COVID-19, what initiatives will you bring to bear to resurrect our collapsing schools? This is what we want to find out. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Please go ahead.
All right. I'm Divine Edem Kojide, the General Secretary for National Union of Ghana Students. My questions are in twofold. First has to do with the issue of student loans, because government of Ghana has been able to successfully make education accessible at the primary level, accessible at the secondary level. Now, the major issue at the tertiary level has to do with the issue of fees. In the NDC manifesto, you have promised to increase student loans by 100%. You have promised to expand coverage to private institutions. And you have promised to reintroduce the SLTF Plus, which makes loans accessible to students immediately upon admission. But the major issues that students who have already registered for the loan scheme face is the delay in disbursements. Now, what that does is that by the time that the loans are made available to these students, the loans have lost their time value. And most of them already have deferred before these loans are given to them. The major issue that NUCS would want you to commit to is to promise that there's going to be a timely disbursement of these loans so that students are able to use them immediately their academic years begin. We hope you would make that commitment. Second issue has to do with the issue of digital education. The COVID-19 pandemic has laid bare the deficits in our digital education infrastructure. The People's Manifesto promises to make free laptops available to all tertiary students. When should students of Ghana expect the distribution of these laptops? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Your Excellency, those are the last questions for you.
Okay.
They came in 2 and 3 folds. So.
All right. Okay. With the issue of private schools, absorbing the schools into the government system, I haven't heard of this one, and it's not our intention to do so. We believe that we can have a partnership with the private sector where government is able to, where the private schools are involved, put the children who go there on a kind of bursary that allows them to go into the private schools. And so we're working that out. We met with the proprietors of private schools, and we say, especially in underserved areas. I went to Elubo during my last campaign tour of Western Region, and the only secondary school in Elubo is a private school. Since the introduction of the free SHS, the school has virtually closed down because all the parents have moved their children into the public schools in order that they benefit from the free SHS. And so if such a school can continue to train the children in Elubo, why not? Why don't we, because there's no government school there, why don't we partner with that school so that the children of Elubo can go to school there, instead of all of them going to Hafasini to go and join in the congestion there and create the double track that has become a monster and is affecting both parents and children. The pre-tertiary bill, education bill, as far as I know, is still in Parliament. It's supposed to receive memoranda from different stakeholder groups. And I don't know if your association has presented a memo to Parliament, but if you have, then the advocacy must be done strongly. I don't know the particular clauses in the pre-tertiary education bill, but I'm sure that, the case that you make is something that can be looked at. Of course, we want to improve the professionalism and level of our teachers in all schools, but I think that the challenges that the private schools face especially must be taken a look at. The advantage the government schools have is that the bill for the payment of teachers is absorbed completely by government. And so whether the school is in session, under COVID, no teacher went unpaid in the public system. But in the private system, the children were at home, they were not coming, no fees were coming. There's no way you can continue to pay your teachers. So they face peculiar challenges that must be taken note of in the consideration of the bill. That is how to resurrect from the effects of COVID-19. That is why we recommended that government take out of the stabilization fund to assist organizations that have been adversely affected by the COVID pandemic. And private schools are a major, institution that have been severely affected by the COVID pandemic. And so my understanding should be that a certain significant amount should be given to private schools to cushion them. At least you could use that to pay some stipend to your teachers, while they still wait for a full recovery to take place. But I don't know how you've been able to interface with the institutions that are disbursing these monies. And if you don't do that very quickly, it probably will run out, because now that they're using it for politics, giving to their chairman, their party executives, they're giving to market traders and asking them to swear oaths to vote for them, and so on and so forth. If you are not careful, the private schools might lose out, because now that money, 600 million, has become a political instrument to win re-election. But certainly we have had engagements with you, and we share in the challenges you have. And one thing you can be sure of is that an NDC government will be a better listening partner to you than the current administration. Student loans, you remember we advocated the student loans plus, and one of the things that we assured, at the time we did, was that we will pay a certain amount to the students, especially the first-year students, upon production of an admission letter, because that's when they need to pay the admission fees and all the other fees. And many of them are not able to take up their places in the university because they were not able to raise the money. And so without asking you any questions, you produce an admission letter, we'll give you that first tranche so that you can pay those initial fees. And then once you are in the university, then we will continue to see how we can enhance the delivery of the loans to you. Of course, we recognize that timeliness has been one of the major parts, but it's going to get worse, because the main source of the loan trust is from the Ghana Education Trust Fund, GET Fund. And this government has gone to mortgage the GET Fund for 10 years and taken almost all the money, $1.5 billion, and so it consumes almost 60% of the, repayment is going to consume almost 60% of the GET Fund. So it means that under this administration, unless we find some new sources of funding, money for the student loan is going to become a bit of a problem. And so we will make sure that we're able to make it more timely, because we know that has been one of the major problems. And one of the solutions we're giving is to give a certain amount of it in advance once the person has received admission. And then once he comes in, to make sure that we give it, if even not in one big lump sum, to give it in some installments. That gives the student something to be able to continue to live, while he studies. And then the last one, free laptops. We've done it before. Ask your predecessors when we were in office before. We gave out free laptops to university students. And so we have done it before. We have a track record of doing it. And so you can trust that when we come, we know how it is done, and we can do it again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I know there are others in the room who would love to ask questions, but the day is fast spent, and we really appreciate you being here. There are various channels that you can have access to the candidate. His Facebook page is there. You can drop these questions there. And Your Excellency, this is an indication that people are interested in such encounters. And so we are very grateful that you accepted our invitation and honored it and shared your precious time with us. We are very grateful for your time with us this evening. And thank you very much for answering our questions and you may please take your seats now. We've heard you. As an organization, we are working on it. So this is our first attempt. We got you an encounter. We haven't given up, and we know that the interest is there, so we'll continue to pursue it. Thank you very much. Okay, so all too soon, we've come to the end of this evening's program, and I would like to take the opportunity to thank His Excellency John Dramani Mahama for making the time to be with us. Indeed, these encounters have their own risks and benefits. And so you will probably understand why some candidates will shy away from it. But I think that the opportunities far exceed the risks that is involved for a candidate who is seeking the mandate of the people. So we are very grateful that you took up this challenge and have come to share with us your ideas and hopes and aspirations for this country. And we look forward to future engagements with you, and hopefully other candidates will also join this encounter, and we might have the debates. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Thank you very much, and I would like to thank everybody in this room. All protocols observed. Thank you, thank you. In this time of COVID, and yet you are here with us. We are really grateful. Most of you have observed the protocols as we've been here. Thank you very much. All this while, we've had the representative of the Chief Imam, Mohammed Awad Shaibu, who is a member of the advisory board to the National Chief Imam, who has been here with us. And we are grateful for the Chief Imam sending his representative to be here with us. And so would like to call on Imam Shaibu to give us the closing prayer.
Please remain in your seats while we pray. Thank you. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. All praise and thanks are due to Allah Almighty, our creator and sustainer of the worlds. We thank you, Allah, for all the glories of life. We thank you for guiding us to a very successful end of this historic program. We ask you, Allah Almighty, to let the best yield out of this program. Let's say Ameen. And I pray, Rabbana atina min ladunka rahmatan wa hayyi ilana min amna rashada. Rabbana la tuzigh qulubana ba'da idh hadaytana wa hab lana min ladunka rahmatan innaka antal wahhab. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wassalamu ala al-mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Can we say Ameen? Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much, Imam Shaibu. So on that note, we've come to the end of the program. The Center for Social Justice is very grateful for your presence. We wish you a safe trip back home to your various destinations. And please maintain all the protocols for COVID and keep safe out there. Our next invitations will be coming into your inboxes. Thank you very much and have a wonderful evening.